The cold steel at Marcus Stone's throat felt sharper than any Apache blade he'd faced in 5 years of frontier war. He woke to darkness, the bitter taste of whiskey on his tongue, the press of a woman's knee driving him into the narrow cot. "My father died in your cabin last night," she whispered, her voice carrying the stillness of desert wind before a storm. "You were the last to see him breathe." Marcus didn't flinch. He couldn't, not with her knife tracing a line of warmth along his jaw. Moonlight slipping through cracked shutters revealed high cheekbones, unblinking dark eyes, and black hair falling like a curtain around them. Apache. Beautiful, deadly. His hands stayed flat at his sides. One wrong move, one breath too sharp, and Dakota's daughter would stain his floorboards with his blood. The old man's dried beneath his fingernails already from trying to save him. "If I'd wanted your father dead," Marcus said quietly, "I wouldn't have spent the night changing his bandages." The blade trembled not with fear, but with rage tightly leashed. Would she choose vengeance or truth? Her breath washed steady across his face, carrying the scent of sage smoke tangled in her hair. Silver beads winked from the strands, her deerskin dress clinging as she leaned in. The soft leather barely contained the rise and fall of her chest, every calculated breath pressing her curves against him. "Prove it," she demanded. Marcus moved only his eyes. "The medicine pouch beside the bed. Your father's, blood on the rags from 3 dressings. I tried to save him, not kill him." Her gaze flicked to the table. The strips of cloth lay stiff with dried blood, the air still heavy with yarrow and willow bark. She reached out, fingertips brushing the pouch she knew was her father's. "You could have prepared this," she said, though doubt edged her voice. "Could have," Marcus answered. "Didn't." Her knife pressed harder. "Your father told me about Ayakawa before he died. About the raids, the betrayal. You know nothing of my uncle." "I know he's about to get a lot of people killed, Apache and white alike. Your father wanted it stopped." Her thigh muscles tightened against his ribs. Anger flashed. "My father is dead because of white men's greed. Because of men like you." "Maybe," Marcus admitted. "But right now men like me are the only ones who can get close enough to Ayakawa to stop what's coming." Silence stretched. Her eyes searched his face, hunting lies. Moonlight traced the sheen of sweat down her throat, catching the hollow of her collarbone before vanishing beneath leather dot at last. Her voice broke the stillness. "I am Kaya. Dakota was my father." She eased the blade back an inch. "I watched from the ridge," she said. "I saw you carry him inside. Saw the light burn all night. Then you know I tried." "I know you failed," she said, the knife trembling again. "But perhaps not by choice." Heat radiated through his shirt where her body pressed against him. "Ayakawa plans to strike in 3 days. Canyon Creek first, then the town." "How do you know?" Marcus asked. Her smile held no warmth. "Because he told me before I learned what he truly was." In a fluid motion, she rolled off him and rose to her feet, as graceful and dangerous as a hunting cat. The sudden absence of her warmth left him cold. She slid the knife into her belt and straightened her dress. The movement of her body accentuated the curve of her hips. "You want to stop him?" Kaya asked. "Then you'll need me." A white man wandering Apache country won't live long enough to find Ayakawa's camp. Marcus sat up slowly, rubbing the raw line at his throat. "And what makes you think I'd trust you not to bury that knife in my ribs the first chance you get?" "Because," she said, stepping to the window, "you're the only white man I've seen try to save an Apache life instead of taking one." She looked back over her shoulder. Moonlight washed her bare skin in silver, glinting across her shoulders. Her eyes were steady, her voice colder. "And because I need you alive, to help me kill my uncle." They rode at dawn, Marcus on his bay gelding, Kaya walking beside him with her wrists bound in rope. It was the only way to pass through disputed territory without drawing fire from both sides, prisoner and captor, a lie carved into every step. The rope burned her wrists raw, but she never complained. She used the sting as fuel for the fury that had been building since her father's death. Every mile toward Ayakawa's stronghold carried her closer to the reckoning she had long planned. "Tell me about him," Marcus said as they climbed a steep ravine. "Your uncle." Kaya's breath came heavier with the climb, chest rising. Beneath her deerskin dress in a rhythm Marcus forced himself not to notice. He was a war chief once, fought alongside Cochise. But gold changed him. White men's promises changed him. What kind of promises? She stopped, turning to face him, her eyes glowing like embers. That if he helped them clear the land of troublesome Apache, they'd give him territory of his own. A reservation where he could rule. Her laugh was bitter. "And he believes their lies." Marcus dismounted, crouching by his horse as if to check its hooves, but really to break the pull of watching her move. "So he's selling out his own people." "Not just selling out, hunting them," Kaya said, her voice cracking. "My father discovered Ayakawa was leading soldiers to winter camps, to families, to children, Marcus. He's helping them kill children." The pain in her words struck harder than he expected. His hand lifted to her shoulder, then froze. The rope reminded him of the deception they carried like armor. "That's why I have to stop him," she whispered. "Not for revenge, for justice." They camped that night in a narrow canyon, red sandstone shielding them from the wind. Marcus built a small fire. Kaya knelt at the stream, rinsing the plants she had gathered. Her dress clung to her body as it soaked, leather molding to her shape. Water trailed down her back, outlining the curve of her hips, testing every thread of his control. But it wasn't only desire. It was her strength, her unshaken resolve, something that stirred a part of him he thought had died with his sister. "You are staring," she said without looking up. "Sorry." Marcus turned back to the fire, though the image of her body, slick with droplets, burned into his mind. "I didn't say I minded." She rose, leather clinging like a second skin, and walked toward him with deliberate slowness. "If we're going to work together, you should know something about me." "What's that?" "I don't break easily." Her hips swayed with each step, her presence filling the firelight. She stopped close enough for him to breathe the sage smoke in her hair. Men have tried before. White men who thought an Apache woman was theirs to take. They learned otherwise. Marcus met her gaze. "I'm not those men." "No," she said, tilting her head, studying him as if weighing the truth. "Then what kind of man are you, Marcus Stone?" The question hung between them like cigarette smoke above the fire. He could have offered the easy answer, a rancher, a former soldier, a man trying to forget, but instead he told her the truth. "The kind who's killed too many and saved too few," he said, staring into the flames. "The kind who watches a woman risk everything for justice and wonders if he's brave enough to help." Something softened in her face. The mask of cold steel slipped, and for a beat the woman beneath the warrior showed through. "You helped my father when you could have let him die," she said. "That took courage, did it?" He looked at her. "Or was I just tired of living with blood on my hands?" She knelt by him, her knee brushing his thigh. Her fingers found his wrist, resting just above the pulse. "Maybe both," she murmured. "Maybe that's what makes you the right man to help me." The touch lit him up more than desire, though there was plenty of that. It was a recognition, two ragged halves finding one another in the dark. "Kaya," he said, his voice rougher than he meant. "Yes." "If we go after Ayako," he warned, "one of us might not come back." Her smile was soft and terrible, beautiful in the way war makes beauty. "Then we'd better make sure it's worth dying for." When she leaned in and kissed him, it felt like coming home after years of wandering. On the third day they found Ayako's camp, tucked in a box canyon some 20 miles south of the territorial road. From the rim, Marcus counted at least 30 men, Apache and white outlaws, mixed together, united by greed and a taste for violence. From where they watched, a large tent in the center of the camp drew Kaya's finger. "That's where he holds council," she whispered. Marcus studied the layout through his field glass. Guards on every approach, horses picketed in a natural corral, weapons stacked by the fire. It looked less like a raider's scatter and more like a military outpost. "How do we get close enough?" he asked. "We don't," Kaya said, eyes flashing. "You do alone." That wasn't the plan. Plans change. She stepped between him and the canyon, her body a silhouette against sky and stone. "Ayako knows my face. But a white man with guns to trade. He'll welcome you like a brother." Marcus lowered the glass. "And leave you here to what? Wait and hope I don't get killed? Leave me here to cover your escape when things go wrong?" She drew a Winchester from her pack and checked the action with the calm of someone born to a rifle. "I'm a better shot than you think." Then, without another word, she slipped down the canyon's backslope, using scrub and rocks for cover. Marcus had no choice but to follow, leading his horse and trying not to count every way the plan could end badly. An hour later, he rode into Ayako's camp with a pack mule loaded with rifles and ammunition guns he'd taken from dead bandits 3 days earlier. The guards watched him warily but kept their muskets lowered. He took that as a good sign. Ayako emerged from his tent like a king greeting a supplicant. Tall for an Apache, streaks of gray in his hair. The bearing of a man used to command, yet his eyes were cold and calculating. A man who'd sold a piece of himself and found the price acceptable. "You bring gifts to my camp?" Ayako asked in accented, measured English. Marcus dismounted slow and unthreatening. "Information. Safe passage. Maybe a chance to make some money." "Money," Ayako echoed, laughter like grinding stone. "What kind?" "The kind that comes from knowing which settlements will be hit next, which have the best pickings and the weakest defenses." Marcus pulled back the tarp on the mule, revealing the rifles beneath. "I figured a man with your connections might know such things." Greed flared in the war chief's eyes. "These are military weapons," he said, the words hungry, approving. "Fresh from an army supply wagon. Asterisk, the kind of wagon that might carry more than rifles' valuable cargo a man with the right pockets could want." Marcus let the implication hang between them. For the next hour they negotiated like merchants at a trading post. Marcus fed Ayakawa just enough information to keep him interested while he soaked up the plans. Canyon Creek at dawn. Cedar Falls 2 days later. Then a coordinated strike on 3 settlements timed to paralyze any military response. "You want in on this?" Ayakawa asked at last. "Prove yourself first," the war chief replied. "Tomorrow ride with us to Canyon Creek. Show me you can kill white settlers as easily as you trade with them." Marcus felt the line tighten at his throat. Innocent people could die at dawn unless he found a way to stop it. "Fair enough," Marcus said. "But I'll need proof you aren't running to trap something my partners back east can take to the bank. Letters. Communications with the men who back you." Ayakawa's smile never reached his eyes. "What kind of proof?" he asked. "Correspondence with your sponsors," Marcus said. "A man doesn't outfit 30 fighters with military weapons unless he's got serious money behind him, money that wants returns. I do business with men like that," Marcus added conversationally. "They appreciate discretion and results." After a pause, Ayakawa nodded toward his tent. "Come, I'll show you the results we deliver." Inside the flap, Marcus saw the scale of it. Maps with strike targets circled in ink. Correspondence with territorial officials. Supply manifests that crawled with horrors. This was beyond raiding. It was calculated extermination disguised as Indian troubles. "Impressive," Marcus said, committing faces and phrases to memory. "Who's your contact?" "Colonel Harrison at Fort McKinney," Ayakawa said. "He keeps troops elsewhere when we strike." Ayakawa poured whiskey from a bottle that smelled of other men's spoils. "In exchange, we make sure the right people take the blame." Marcus tasted the whiskey, his mind clicking. Harrison was a name he knew, the kind of political climber who'd sacrifice anyone for advancement. The plan fit a pattern Marcus had seen before. Power, profit, bodies. A what toasted. Marcus let the glass lift, then threw the whiskey in the war chief's face and drove his fist into him. Ayakawa staggered, choking. As Marcus snatched the incriminating papers and bolted for the tent flap, shouts exploded through the camp. Marcus vaulted into the saddle, bullets screaming past as he spurred his horse toward the canyon mouth. Behind him, Ayakawa bellowed orders in both Apache and English. Then a rifle cracked from the rim and a pursuer went down Kaya. True to her word, picking riders off with cold. Methodical precision. By the time Marcus reached the canyon's mouth, the sun was tipping west, dyeing the rocks a bruised red. Kaya waited with spare mounts, Winchester still warm in her hands. "Did you get what we need?" she called. He waved the stolen papers. "Enough to hang Harrison and half the territorial government." Her jaw tightened. "But Ayakawa's alive. He knows we're coming." She swung into the saddle with the same fluid grace she'd used to drop into the camp. Around them the canyon breathed dust, blood, and the thin, hard promise of what had to be done next. Then we'd better reach Fort McKinney before he does. They rode through the night, chasing an uncertain dawn, carrying proof of betrayal and the fragile hope that justice could still be found in a land where trust came at gunpoint and love survived only in the shadows of violence. At sunrise, the walls of Fort McKinney glowed gold as Marcus and Kaya rode through the gates under a flag of truce. In Marcus's saddlebags lay enough evidence to bring down Colonel Harrison's conspiracy, if they could convince anyone to believe them. General Morrison, the fort's weary commander, heard them out with the caution of a man seasoned by frontier politics. But when Marcus spread the stolen papers across his desk, supply manifests, payment records, and damning letters between Harrison and Ayakawa, the general's face hardened. "If this is true," Morrison said, voice low, "it is treason on a scale I have never seen." "It's true," Kaya answered softly. "My uncle thought he was saving our people by siding with power. He never understood that men like Harrison see us all as expendable." The arrest of Colonel Harrison shook the territorial capital. His web of corruption unraveled like a frayed rope, dragging down traitors, politicians, and officers who had profited from manufactured war. Deprived of money and allies, Ayakawa's raids collapsed before they began, but victory carried a price. On a windswept ridge above her father's grave, Kaya stood in a simple blue cotton dress with white flowers, a gift from the general's wife, who insisted heroes deserved more than blood-stained deerskin. The wind lifted her hair like a dark banner against the fading sky. "He would have been proud," Marcus said, joining her at the marker of canyon stones. "Would he?" Kaya's voice trembled with old pain. "I killed his brother. I destroyed what was left of his family." "You stopped a war," Marcus said, laying a steady hand on her shoulder. "You saved hundreds, white and Apache both." For the first time, she leaned into his touch, seeking the warmth she had once denied herself. "And now?" she asked. "The world hasn't changed just because we ended one conspiracy." Marcus looked toward the horizon, where the first stars burned into the frontier sky. "Then we change it," he said quietly. "We build something better, together." 6 months later, they stood in the doorway of a small cabin overlooking a green Colorado valley. Kaya's hands, rough with honest work, rested against the gentle curve of early pregnancy. Marcus's arm circled her shoulders. Love had taken root in a land of violence. And under endless western skies, it was growing stronger every day.